te llamo para que vayas a recoger las paelleras. Y me acuesto en su, ya para abrir el restaurante que era el arroz. Y me llama el cocinero. Risita, ¿qué? Ve por la paellera. Venga, que a las 2 de la tarde ya están aquí. Miren, bañador. Las chanclas. Todo despeinado porque no me dio tiempo nada ponerme las chanclas. Bañador. Voy a la playa, había subido la marea. ¡Jesús! ¡Había subido la marea y encontré una paella! Y la encontré porque estaba la paellera agarrada metida entre las piedras de Chipiona, del faro. Y cuando entro en el restaurante me ve el cocinero con una paellera y adentro la vende paellera. ¡Asómate! ¡Mira dónde llega el agua! Llegaba el agua hasta el restaurante. Había subido la marea. ¡Jesús! ¡Hay que hacerlo ahora! Con los 2 sacos de arroz. ¡Ay, llama para Sevilla! ¡Llama a Sevilla que traigo paella!
Hello and welcome back to my channel, and yes, from that I think you can kind of guess what this video is going to be about. It's going to be about, basically, I could target loads of YouTubers and loads of media sites in this because we know there's so much bias out there, but I'm just going to target 2 specific ones in this video, and that will be DualShockers and Watch Mojo. So what I'm going to do is go through their 2 videos that they released and debunk. I'm going to debunk 5 points from each of their videos, so in total 10 points that they've made. I could do more, I could do a lot more, I could just tear apart their entire videos and how they're incorrect and stuff like that, but I'm just going to pick 5 statements they've made from each of their videos and debunk them for everyone to see. So stay tuned, I hope you enjoy. Please sub and share this out, and let's get into this, shall we?
Welcome to Mojo Plays. Today, we're looking at why the PS5 destroyed the Xbox Series X. Does Microsoft actually know how to make a console anymore?
So, what way to kick it off? Does Xbox know how to make consoles anymore? Considering the console's actually getting better with time, whereas PlayStation's actually getting worse, I'm not sure where he's coming from. So you can look at the glaring stats of both consoles. Let's just put aside the Xbox X, the end of the last generation, Xbox X versus the PS4 Pro, which the Xbox X was a better built machine than the PS4 Pro, easily. Let's just go into this generation, and the Xbox Series X versus the PS5. Once again, the Xbox Series X is a better built machine. So this is the stats, but let's just put aside the stats as an example of why it's better. Let's look at things like smart delivery, which allow on the Xbox Series X allow your saves to seamlessly transfer from your last gen console onto your next gen console, which the PS5 doesn't allow. Let's look at peripherals, which your last gen peripherals on the PlayStation won't work on your next gen system. So your PS4 controllers, headsets and stuff will not work on the PS5. Let's look at backwards compatibility. It's only got backwards compatibility to the PS4. Let's look at external drive. The external drive yet doesn't work on the PS5. Let's look at the heating issues. And yes, there are heating issues. This is why they're continuously dropping patches to do things with the fan to speed it up, which is going to make the machine louder. And there's other alternatives for cooling for the PS5 coming out. So I'm really not sure on his take on this at all. Does Xbox not know how to make consoles anymore? And then let's look at the size. Look at the size of the consoles. The PS5 towers the Xbox Series X. It's both wider and, or I should say more depth, it's got more depth to it, and it's a lot taller. It's just not a system you can comfortably stick on your cabinet at home or into a cabinet at home. It doesn't blend in too well, it's obvious, and it's not pretty to look at. Let's be honest here, it's not very pretty to look at. So his first statement is absolute nonsense.
There's already a winner in the 9th generation console wars. At every step of the way, the PS5 has outsold, outshone, and outplayed the Series X.
PS5 has outsold and outplayed the Series X, has it? In every single way, yeah? So we ignore it being outsold by the Xbox Series X in the UK, which previously the PlayStation has dominated the UK, but the Xbox Series X for the first time outsold the PlayStation. We'll just ignore facts, because that'd be journalism. We don't come here for journalism. We don't come here for facts, do we? We just come here to clickbait. That's what these channels do. So yeah, in every single way. Oh, that's interesting. I'm pretty sure I've got someone here that's going to debunk your own point. Who is that? Oh, it's you. You debunk your own point. Let's have a listen.
Game Pass is one of the only things Sony is losing to Microsoft over.
Yeah, that statement makes your every single way statement sound like a complete lie, doesn't it? When you sort of go on later on into your own video to debunk your own earlier points that you was making. You do it quite often in your video, I've noticed. You make a statement earlier on, and later on you debunk the statement you made previously. You make yourself sound like an idiot. It sounds lazy. I hope I would like, ideally, these channels to employ journalists that know how to use Google. That'd be brilliant. That'd be just a fantastic. As you're paying them to do a job, you'd think they would know how to type rather than just waffle. But yes, Game Pass. You forgot about Game Pass. It's just hit 20 million subscribers, while the PS Now is on the decline. Not many people are registering for PlayStation at the moment. It's just becoming a sort of a standalone console. No one wants to be online for it because it doesn't offer that much compared to Game Pass. So yeah, it's got 20 million users now, Game Pass. Absolutely, the word you like to use, destroying the PS5. And that's actually a fact. The Game Pass is destroying PS Now, or PS Plus, whatever it calls. PS Plus, I think it is, the online version of it, which is 50% streamed, I think. How awful was that? In 720, no less, on PS5. So yes, you've completely debunked yourself. Should we move on to your next stupid statement?
It's no secret that most Xbox exclusives aren't that good. Almost none of them are system sellers, and the Xbox One had an incredibly weak game library from the beginning, with forgettable launch titles like Dead Rising 3. Meanwhile, Sony has had some of the best video games in the industry, and some of the best video games of all time, with God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us, Uncharted, and Bloodborne all available on PlayStation.
Wow, back up a minute, back up. There is so much misleading information there. He's just dropped all off the bat. Firstly, you notice he compares Xbox One's launch titles against PS4's end-of-generation games like God of War that come into 2018. So he's comparing 2013 games, launch games, against 2018 games, like the end-of-gen games. Why didn't he compare like for like? Why did he compare the launch games Xbox One versus the PS4's launch games? Why did he not do that? Simple reason, because he's misleading. When he said it had an awful launch lineup and then just listed one game, Dead Rising 3, he skipped Forza Horizon 5, Rise, Son of Rome, Killer Instinct. But let's go into then 2014. We have Titanfall, which I'm showing here. We've got Sunset Overdrive. We've got Forza Horizon 2. We've got Halo Master Chief Collection. I think I'm probably missing some. Compared to PlayStation 4, which had, at launch, it had Killzone and Knack. Hello. And then in 2014, it followed up with Infamous Second Son and Drive Club. I know, right? Yeah. So the Xbox One's launch up was weak. And then it's amazing that he just glazes over the PS4's lineup and goes straight into the heavy hitters. And then on face value of that, he listed Last of Us 1. He didn't list Last of Us 2, did you notice? He listed, because that got panned. He listed Last of Us 1, which is actually a PS3 title. This is how incredible this guy is. And then he lists things like Bloodborne. Right, let's focus on Bloodborne. Bloodborne didn't come out until 2015. Bloodborne was the first game the PlayStation 4 had that had a Metacritic higher than 81%. Before that, all its games were rated in the 60s and 70s. Bloodborne in 2015 was its first game to rate above 81%. Okay, just take that in for a moment. So to say Xbox One's launch was terrible is absolutely inflammatory and misleading. I can't believe how misleading it is. And then compare its launch against games like God of War, which are end-of-gen titles, which took them, an entire gen to develop, is absolutely incredible, blowing my mind. All we need here is someone to step in and completely contradict what this guy is saying again. And there's no one better than himself, because later on he goes on to debunk his own point, saying Xbox One has no good games, by saying the complete opposite later on. As I said before, he tends to do this throughout his video. So let's have a quick listen of him before moving on to his next statement.
But it's not just that Microsoft exclusives aren't great. Microsoft has plenty of enormous franchises with huge player bases under its belt, like Xbox Series X, despite being on paper a far more technically impressive console with a marginally faster CPU, almost 2 teraflops more GPU power, and a larger SSD, has consistently underperformed against the PS5. For whatever reason, developers haven't yet been able to eke out the same performance from the Xbox Series X that they've achieved on the PS5, even when running cross-platform games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And this is in spite of games like Valhalla alleging that they are optimized for Xbox Series X.
There's a reason for this, it's staring me in the face, but I can't quite see it. I can't put my finger on it. What could it be? What could the reason be? While games are better optimised for the PS5 at launch than the Xbox Series X. I can't think of the reason why. What's interesting here is it says even cross-gen titles are running better. Pretty much only cross-gen titles are running better on the PS5 than the Xbox Series X at this stage. Nothing else is, and it's not even all of them. It's only a select few. And as time's going on, as games coming out, as Digital Foundry have showed, the game's actually are running better on the Xbox Series X as time's going on, as more developers have longer time with the Xbox Series X. The games are starting to run better, and they're better optimised for the Series X, as it happens every generation. It's always slow at the beginning. You have to allow developers to learn the nature of the kit, basically. So the fact that they're trying to run with this as the PS5 is better, and this is one of their theories on it's destroying the Xbox Series X. No, sorry, he said PS5's already won the console war, it's already destroyed the Xbox Series X, which is absolutely stupid and bad journalism in itself to state that, and that's going to massively come back and bite him on the arse. Well, actually, no, it already has done. But it's what we need now is someone here, once again, to contradict himself. Who have we got? Who have we got for this?
One big reason why this could be is that Microsoft sent out dev kits for new Xboxes much later than Sony, meaning developers simply had less time to optimize for Xbox.
There we go, that was it. Yes, of course. Judge, looking at the date there. PS5 dev kits were out at least a minimum, a minimum of a year before the Xbox Series X dev kits were out. So devs have had a year longer to work with the PS5. Yes, there was already dev kits out in 2019. Can you look, October 2019? That's like a year and a half, almost 2 years before the console even launched. When did the consoles launch? 2020? No, it's a year. And I've got actually those recordings that was out in 2018. There was some devs coming out and said they've already got a dev kit. So, yes, I just don't know why this guy does it to himself. I don't know why he does it. Because then he goes on to say, oh, the reason for this is because the dev kits of the PS5 are out earlier. Then why make a statement saying the games are running better on the PS5, yada yada yada, to only go and say, the reason for that is this. Well, you just sound like a dope. You just sound like a wally. Just be quiet, don't talk about it. Or sort of just lead with the facts. Don't mislead and then sort of just quietly drop in the facts at the end. Let's move on to his final statement, which is funny as well.
But perhaps the final killing blow for Microsoft has been the controller. The Xbox 360 controller is still widely regarded as one of the best controllers of all time, and Microsoft has definitely taken an if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach. This means that Xbox controllers have barely changed since the 360, while Sony has been innovating. The Xbox Series controller doesn't match up to the new and exciting DualSense, which has been the biggest design shakeup for Sony in the entire history of PlayStation.
Baby, been waiting on me. How you doing? Woo! It is sleek, it is clean. Oh man.
With bells and whistles like the best haptic feedback in the business, and
Hold it, whoa, hold it right there. Best haptic feedback in the business. What? Says who? Says who? Nobody's saying that. Oh, what's funny is that they tried to make out that the haptic feedback is a next generation gimmick that's only available on the PS5 controller. But the Elite controller, back in 2018, had haptic, but nobody cared. It wasn't because it wasn't about controllers back then. It was about the games, not about the controllers. Who cares about controllers? But now PS5 is released and it's sort of a bit redundant. It's trying to make a big issue about the controllers, and so is the media. They're all more focused for the controller, while making up lies about the console itself in the games. They're all for the controller all of a sudden, and boasting features that the Elite controller had, and they didn't even care for, they didn't even mention. But it's funny that he says, best haptic feedback in the business, said nobody. But one of the reasons why Sony keep making these new controllers and keep adapting them and stuff, because the previous ones are not very good. They've already been sued for the DualSense because it's got the same issues as the previous controller had, which is drifting. And this is why they're being sued, because it's a continuous feature of their controllers, which is not being fixed, even though it's been highlighted by their quality control teams. They're going to Sony and saying, look, there's an issue with this. Sony going, yeah, don't care, just release the bloody controller, just give it to them. They will buy it because our fan base pretty much are idiots. More or less that's what Sony are saying. You're morons because you're going to buy it anyway. And you do. And the media jumps on it as well. What fantastic. But the first point is the controllers don't carry on to the next console, because you have to completely recreate a new controller. Two, we heard all this before with the last controller. Do you remember all the things like the little light thing on it and the little touchpad it had on it? Where are those features gone? Those were all groundbreaking and fantastic when the last gen controller had them for the PS4. Where are those features gone? If they were so groundbreaking and fantastic, why have they not carried over? Why are those features not carried over? Because they wasn't groundbreaking and fantastic. Actually, it was barely used. People were actually switching off the feature. And just like the issues on the new controller, people turn them off because they're draining the battery massively. And what's more to take from this is that the guy, I think it's this guy that says the Xbox controller, the problem with it is you can't recharge it. You can't recharge the batteries. What the hell was he on about? What a complete lie. The Xbox controller actually has three features. You can have batteries. You can put your rechargeable batteries in it. It also has the standard battery pack you can stick on the back, or you can just charge it directly into your Xbox. It's got more chargeable features than the PS5 and PS4 controllers ever had. It's just nonsense. But just looking at the features here of the Elite controller, they far outweigh the PS5 controller. This has been covered by things like Tech Radar and things like that, and controller sites and things like that that look into controllers and playing games and stuff like that. They've put the Elite controller 2, especially, far above the PS5 controller. Even though it's more expensive, that's its only downside. Other than that, it has far more features and far more capabilities than the PS5 controller. So, I think I'll end it there for Watch Mojo. Let me hear your views and comments on Watch Mojo and what they said about the PS5 and the Xbox One more substantially. Down below, please sub and share. I'm going to move on to now though to Dual Shockers. Let's see what Dual Shockers has to say about their take on all this. But clearly, just like Watch Mojo, are very salty about the Bethesda deal. This guy's whole video is basically him being really salty about Bethesda being exclusive to Xbox. So, look at the dislikes compared to likes for a start. So let's get into this. I'm going to obviously just focus on a few of the points.
You also get a quick rundown of all the various studios that Microsoft has bought which fall under the Bethesda umbrella. And I have to say, it is a little disheartening. For all that the presentation tries to put a positive spin on things, we all know that this is just a list of games that won't be appearing on PlayStation 5 anytime soon. No more Wolfenstein, no more Dishonored, no more Evil Within.
Well, I warned you he's a whiny baby. Yeah, basically a lot of this video is him basically complaining about exclusives not going, these games not going to PlayStation, which is, you know, as I said, the hypocrisy is unreal, as I said before. It's incredible. But yeah, a lot of his video is him trying to be very clever, trying to be very funny, very smart, but coming across as a big whiny baby, really just whining about exclusive games. So let's go on to his other statements, really, because so I can just get on and just debunk his whole point.
But a fair chunk of the presentation also deals with games that probably won't end up being exclusive. Fallout 76 is one, yes, but Elder Scrolls Online is another. Games that rely heavily on their online community are going to do best when they reach the widest possible audience. Now, of course, these aren't the games that Bethesda is best known for, but they're something. They leave the door open for future Bethesda releases on PS5 and other platforms in future. Because here's the thing that Phil Spencer isn't mentioning about console exclusives. They have a relatively short shelf life. Games age quickly, and a few years, indeed even a few months after a game's initial release, its value to the company drops dramatically.
Yes, and here he is correct. They will do best when they reach the widest audience, which is PC and mobile, which is what Game Pass is also on. So he's deluded if he thinks PlayStation is the widest audience, because it's not. Because how many PlayStation 5s have been sold at this stage? Let's just exaggerate and say 6 million. I'm sorry, but there are far more combined platforms of PC, Xbox Series S, and mobile phones on the market than there are PC and PlayStation 5s. So they do best when they reach the widest platform. Yes, which is PC. As a gaming platform, it's PC. So stop with the delusion that PlayStation is the widest platform. It is not. It is not the widest platform. This man needs to get a grip on reality, and maybe just go to Sony and say, Sony, you see my video about preaching Xbox about not having exclusives and reaching the wider audience and making more money. Why don't you do this? Rather than attack Xbox for doing it, go to Sony who've done it and continue to do it. After all, he does work for DualShockers that are a part of Sony. So this guy's an absolute moron.
Last year, Phil Spencer said, "Gaming is about entertainment and community and diversion and learning new stories and new perspectives. I find it completely counter to what gaming is about to say that part of that is to lock people away from being able to experience those games, or to force someone to buy my specific device on the day that I want them to go buy it, in order to partake in what gaming is about. Gaming is bigger than any one device." Of course, it's one thing to announce exclusives are bad, but purchasing Bethesda is in large part about making sure these games are exclusive to Xbox Games Pass.
And so unfortunately he continues with his blind ignorance to PlayStation and Sony, who keep all their games exclusive. Firstly, not only does he sort of quote Phil and then try to make a stab at they're going to make the games exclusive to Xbox Game Pass, which is not exclusive just to Xbox Game Pass, is it? They're exclusive to also PC. They're just exclusive to Game Pass in general. Drop the Xbox, they're exclusive to Game Pass. So any platform with Game Pass, i.e. PC, Xbox, your mobile phone, if you got cloud and account. In fact, you can also buy these games. You cannot. It's not just you can only play these games via Game Pass. You can also buy these games from stores. There's physical copies, digital copies. If you don't want Game Pass, you can buy them. He's sort of misleading people that you have to buy Game Pass to buy these games. No, you can go into your game store and buy these games physically for PC and Xbox. But they're also on Game Pass, which is a cheaper option. But it's just weird that he seems to just glaze over the fact that Sony's done this for years and continue to do this. And like most of the media, they're targeting Xbox for doing this. Like it's not fair. Like, how do they have the right to make exclusive games? This is only Sony's right.
After all, the company has made no secret of the fact that they want to be the Netflix of games. We know this because Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella once said of their plans, we describe it as shorthand Netflix for games. Get someone to buy Starfield one time on any console, and you'll sell them the game once for $60, plus DLC or what have you at a later point down the line. But get them to subscribe to Xbox Games Pass, and they'll pay you $15 a month every month until they die. That's a lot of money to squeeze out of your customer base. Frankly, it would not surprise me if, maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but eventually, we get some form of Xbox Games Pass, first on Nintendo Switch, and then on PlayStation. That seems to be the direction Microsoft is heading. As with Bethesda's community games, their Fallout 76s and Elder Scrolls Onlines, the more players you can hook, the more money you can make.
There you go, Chuck. Now you're getting it. The more people you can hook, the more money you can make. Hence, player user base. That's what Microsoft aimed at. That's what Xbox aimed at, rather than console sales. Because the wider the audience, the more money you make. See, and that's why they've stretched Game Pass now onto PC and mobile phones. You can get it on your mobile phones. Even pushing it onto Samsung. They've done a deal with Samsung, so you'll be able to get eventually Game Pass on your Samsung TV. So now you're getting it. Well done. I'm going to have to applaud you for finally getting it, finally clicking in your head, even though you're still somewhat confused about some things, like the Netflix of gaming, you say, as if it's a bad thing, and they're going to subsequently put it on other devices because that's where it leads. No, it doesn't. Have you ever known of any subscriptions like that? For example, let's look at Netflix. Let's use Netflix. Netflix original shows, that's what they call Netflix original shows. How many of those do you see on Disney Plus? How many do you see Netflix shows on Disney Plus? No. Do you see Disney Plus shows on Netflix? Can you watch Star Wars and those movies on Netflix? No. Amazon Prime. How many Amazon Prime programs do you see on Disney or vice versa? No. I'll tell you why. It's because it's called competition. It's this thing. When you compete against other subscription services of this magnitude, you do not give them money. So they went to Nintendo. Actually, Xbox did go to Nintendo, and Nintendo turned it down. Whether they will change that in the future, but Xbox did go to Nintendo and said, "Can we put Game Pass on Switch?" And they turned it down. And the logic behind that is because you think, at the end of the day, if Game Pass is on that system, people are going to be buying into those games, which means they could then stop buying your games, your first-party games, in favour of those games. People are still thinking about console sales. Yeah, but you won't sell the console. Nobody cares. Xbox don't care. If they don't sell 1 million consoles, but then sell an extra 10 million sort of subscriptions or software, that easily outweighs this console sales, because the console sales are sold at a loss anyway. So they want to sell more software. They want to sell more subscriptions. So yes, they went to Switch, for example, Nintendo, and said, "Can we put it on there?" And Nintendo sort of thought, "No, that probably wouldn't be a good deal for us, because we wouldn't want to lose a lot of our user base to your games. We will want to feed your company money, because like by Nintendo, their fans buying Game Pass on the Nintendo, they would start playing Game Pass games and playing more of those, which then would take the user base off their own games." So they said no. They didn't even offer it to PlayStation, because PlayStation would have said no, no doubt. And so rightly they should. I wouldn't do it, because why would you do that? Why would you say, why would you put Xbox games on your console? And then people start, you can say, "Oh yeah, but they won't buy an Xbox console." Why do Xbox care about that? You're going to be buying all their games. You're going to be throwing more money than you can possibly imagine at them. It's the same as the idiots that say, "I don't need an Xbox because I've got a PC." That's fantastic. That's what they want you to do. Play their games on your PC, so you're still feeding them money. That's how it works. And that is how subscription services work. As a grown man, he should understand this. It's 2021. The world should understand how subscription services work. And this man is not grasping it. And quite frankly, his whole video is about him really, if I get to the nitty-gritty of it, is him complaining and whining fundamentally that PlayStation won't be getting Bethesda games. That is pretty much his gripe. And he's pretty much moaning and saying, "Oh, it's bad business, yada yada yada." But PlayStation do it. PlayStation do it. Nintendo does it. But he's not made a video about them. He's just made a video about this because he's salty, because he's not about to play Bethesda titles on his PlayStation, which he only owns. Or he probably doesn't even own a PC. He owns a PlayStation, and he's not about to play Bethesda titles now, and he's clearly salty. And now he's just got into sort of a breakdown, thought, "That's it, I'm making a video, and I'm going to have a go at Microsoft and tell them that they have to put their games on PlayStation so I can play them, because it's not fair. And I'm going to also tell them that it will make them more money if I buy them on PlayStation." Shut up, buy an Xbox, or buy a PC, or play it some other way, get Game Pass, play it some other way. but they're not going to play inside PlayStation. I'm sorry about that, mate. I'm sorry about that. All the fans out there, it's not happening. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed all that. Thank you for watching. Dragged that out a bit longer than I probably need to, but I need to. You understand? We need to get these points across because it is just so draining and so weird to see this same repeated argument and the biased. If you can't look at this and say this is not biased, there is something mentally wrong with you, because this is clear media bias that you can. When a company can say, when the media, the so-called journalists can say, it's fair if Sony do this, but it's not fair if Microsoft do this. When you can clearly see that happening, then there is clearly an issue, and this affects gaming and gamers as a whole and developers, and it's very bad for gaming. And if you're a true gamer, then you wouldn't be supporting this nonsense. And thankfully, this, as you see, this got a lot of dislikes from people, from gamers, because of it. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you all for watching. It's my birthday today, so I'm going to go off now and have a few tequilas and get drunk. Goodbye for now.